But these are the signs that are going to happen before I come. There will be storms, there will be earthquakes, there will be floods, there will be famine, there will be diseases that go all around the world. When you see these signs, you need to know I'm not far away. A blessed morning to every single one of you. Thank you for joining me in this morning, Sunday morning service. It's the 5th of May. We thank God for this beautiful day that we could call upon His name to preach and share in His name. I want to thank those of you that are patrons of Trinity International. Thank you for your financial support, your tithes, your offerings. And remember always that somebody is praying over your tithe, your offering, every time you contribute to this part of God's kingdom work. God bless you. A quick reminder that at 10 a.m. this morning, we will be releasing a new video. It will be regarding the online baptism. So if you want to be baptized and are willing to do it online, please join us at 10 a.m. this morning. We will also use the communion serving to serve you communion once the baptism is complete. Beloved, last week I gave you a teaching about the end times and the United Nations being the beast that was coming out of the sea. And the scriptures told us that the dragon, who is Satan, will be standing on the shore conducting the activity of the beast. And the beast will come out of the waters. And I shared with you that the waters represent the peoples of the world. That's what the Bible specifically mentions to us as we read it to you in scripture last week. That and the people are represented by the United Nations. So hence, if you use that description that God gave us, you must actually vision that the beast is the United Nations and it emerges out of the people or the nations of the world. Now, you know, water is significant in these terms because you wonder why God chose water to represent the peoples. Because, listen, water runs through every country in the world. To every city, every small town has a river that leads to the sea. Therefore, the people's connectedness is represented by water. Hence, the collectiveness of people from which the United Nations or the beast will emerge to represent, it fits God's description of why the beast comes out of the water. Just so that, you know, in your mind, you settle these matters and finally understand when God speaks to us with imagery. But this morning, I'm going to share with you one of the most powerful messages revealing where Satan places himself and how he manipulates God's people. He cannot manipulate people who raise their hands and worship Jesus. He cannot do it from the outside. So he does it from the inside. One of the presidents of the United States who was executed shortly after making such a statement, it validifies what I'm sharing with you. That Satan and his agents use infiltration rather than direct opposition. So in this way, Satan has managed to infiltrate what we're going to loosely call the church now, so that he can manipulate and mesmerize their behavior. But I'm going to start with the book of Matthew, chapter 16, and it reads like this. And I also say to you, Peter, that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Now it's interesting that a particular word is used, converted from Greek to English, and that word is ecclesia. Originally, in Greek, ecclesia means, let's read what the etymology says. For years, gospel preachers have called attention to the etymology of ecclesia. The word is a compound of two segments, ek, a preposition meaning out of, and a verb kaleo, meaning or signifying to call. Hence, the whole term is call out. So, if you read that scripture again, the last part, I will build my called out ones, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Now, it's interesting because I want you to use that gut that God spoke to you about, and understand, let it soak in, that this is not, God was not talking about, in this particular instance, a group of people collected in a building. God was individualizing it. Called out ones. Called out ones are not part of an organization per se. They are individual people all over the world. He will call them out from whichever corner they are. And those, God says, will be His ecclesia. Now, I'm going to share with you some stuff. But before we move any further and get more excited, the book of Matthew, chapter 16, from 15 to 18, precedes the scripture I just read to you. So let's read that. Jesus said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered and said to him, "Wait a minute, man. Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And also I say to you that you are Peter, Petros, and on this rock I will build my ecclesia, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." Do you know, there is so much wisdom packed in these verses that I can't begin to explain it in words. It is God's secret, and I'm going to reveal to you God's secret right now. So what is this rock? What is this Petra that Jesus was talking about? upon this Petra, I'm going to build my ecclesia. So in other words, people build on a foundation. So if you use that, on this foundation, Peter, I'm going to build my church. What foundation? On the foundation that God is the one that will talk to a person on the inside, in their gut, about me. And on this principle, on this foundation, I will call my people out to ecclesia. I pray now. Just pause for a moment and think about what I just said. He's not building his church on the ecclesia. Or he's not building on the ecclesia. He's building on a foundation that calls out people. He's building on the foundation. What is that foundation again? The foundation is that people belong to his ecclesia based on God telling them on the inside what to do. Just like how he told Peter who he is. Because on the surface, Peter could never know unless God told him. So in the same manner, God is going to build his ecclesia, his called out ones, on that principle. Therefore, if God doesn't ignite you to come to him, that means you were not called out. You're not going to be part of his ecclesia or called out ones. Unless God tells you. Therefore, you don't have to convince people by showing them miracles. That's not the foundation, showing people miracles, that they must serve Christ. The foundation is not built on how much food you give them, groceries for the month. And many other faiths are built by them handing people out groceries, foodstuffs, clothing, so that they can be part of their organization, whatever that might be. But for Christianity, the foundation has nothing to do with physical things. It has to do with God talking on the inside. So if you are coming to church because some miracle happened that convinced your head that that must be God, your foundation is incorrect. You can only come to God if the foundation of his calling means that God told you on the inside, in your gut, that he is God. It has nothing to do. That's why when Jesus was healing people, he told the man, don't go and tell anybody what I did. But the man went and blurted it out anyway. And this is the reason why Israel rejected him when he came to die for them on the cross. Because they based their belief in Jesus based on the miracles he was doing, not because God told them on the inside. Very few people God told them on the inside. Eventually there were only 120 left in Jerusalem. 12 of whom were in the upper room. So I hope you're getting this clear picture that there is no need for convincing anybody. There is no need for bribing anybody, for making them belong to your organization by getting them involved in music or in dancing or in some skit or some program that keeps them attached to this organization, whatever it might be. Your calling to God will be done on your inside. Something inside will tell you. Even if you're listening to me right now and you haven't truly given yourself to Jesus, there will be an inner voice, a still voice inside of you, in your gut telling you, I need to serve the Lord. Now I can testify to this. Because from the time I was a young man, starting at around 12, 13, I was helping my grandfather to make, some of you might know what this is, tabbiges. It's like spiritual mementos that has got nothing to do with Jesus Christ in their religion. And I used to help him. And during that period, just after that, in fact, just after that, I had this need to know Christ. I don't know why. I was surrounded by all unbelievers, people who were serving other gods. And eventually, God pulled me from obscurity and brought me into his ecclesia. And so, this is how God calls people. And if, listen to me very carefully now, if you came for any other reason except that God told you on your inside, you are not safe in being part of his ecclesia. Let's move on. Petra. What is Petra? Why do I say foundation? Petra is the foundation. Now in 1 Kings we see, at the king's command they removed from the quarry large blocks of high-grade stone to provide a foundation of dressed stone for the temple. This is how buildings in Jesus' day were constructed. So for this reason, Jesus said to him, on that principle that you just used to know who I am, that God spoke to you inside of you, that is the rock on which my ecclesia will be built. So if you are building your Christian faith on the miracles you saw, on your wife dragging you to church, or maybe you gave up drinking because you started going to church, on that foundation if you build, it's going to fall. But nobody can move you from Christ if God told you on the inside, he is Lord. I want you to count yourself privileged if he chose you. Now, just so that we get things clear. God doesn't choose you based on what home you came from. You can come, in fact, he chooses the ones that come from the worst kind of backgrounds, the hardest lives, most of the time. But God knows your heart and your character as you're growing up. Where if you got a clean heart, even though you might be serving idol gods, if you got a clean heart, God speaks inside of you. And the moment you give in to what he's saying, you become part of his ecclesia. But if you have a dirty heart, there is no way that God is going to call you. And for this reason, John quotes Jesus in the book of John 6:44. No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up at the last day. So your calling has nothing to do with anything you see visibly. Father has to call you. How does he call you? On the inside. On that he will build his ecclesia. Now I gave you a teaching on the 20th of April 2020 about the wedding ceremony of in the Jewish custom. In the Jewish custom, I'll briefly run through it. And you can go to that sermon and watch the whole thing. It's very intriguing how Jesus chose to react or to enlist his bride of they called the church or the ecclesia. In a Jewish custom, the boy or the groom does not choose the bride. The father of the groom chooses the bride. We see it happening in Abraham's time. He sent his servant to go look for a wife for Isaac. It happened to be Rebekah. And just running through it briefly. And then the groom comes, and it's up to the bride. When the future father-in-law chooses her, it's up to the bride. You cannot force the bride. You cannot bribe the bride. She must willingly, on her own free will, decide that she wants to marry the future father-in-law's son, the groom. So the bride has to make her own decision. She cannot be convinced by her father or anybody. If she on her own will decides that she wants this groom, then they do an engagement. I think it's called a ketubah. And that ketubah, when it's signed, everything that belongs to the groom, including his name, including his authority and his power, everything he wields, goes to her as a right. And then the groom goes away for, in those days it was a year, to go to his father's house to prepare a place for the bride to come and live when he comes back to receive her. And this is interesting to me. And then the father of the groom is the only one who decides when the groom is going to come fetch his bride. Nobody else knows. And that's why Jesus says, nobody knows when I'm going to come for you. The bride, it's going to be the father's decision. Only he knows. And so the father of the groom is the only one that knows when he's going to come and fetch us. So just that you can put these pieces together and understand how the end times work, how the bride works. The bride is chosen, and you have been chosen. Or called out by God, I should say. You have been selected, and God spoke to you on the inside. Some of you, it's time for you to act on what He spoke to you and give your life to Jesus. Do it now. I don't know what you're waiting for, but if the call comes out to you and you feel it on the inside. But listen, if you don't feel it on the inside, then that's not who I'm talking to. Now, I'm going back because here's the very interesting part. When that word, church, was used, I will build my church. And I told you it's not church. In Greek, it was ecclesia. And ecclesia means called out one. So if you're going to read that scripture again, I will build my called out ones on that foundation. But for some strange reason, the people who translated it into English changed the translation from ecclesia to church. Church is not written in any ancient text, including by the apostles themselves, including by Jesus himself. He used ecclesia. He never used the word church. So there is, between you and I now, there is no word such as church in either the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Apocrypha, any non-canonical books. There is no word such as church. The only word was used is ecclesia. Now, let us see. In Matthew 16, and I say unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my congregation. Now, Tyndale did not use the word church. Many other Bible translations, in fact, most of the Bible translations, they used the Greek word ecclesia and made it church. Especially the New International Version, which is the biggest selling Bible in the world. They made the word church also. Why is this significant? Well, we'll see in a moment. So, Tyndale was one of the few people, in fact, he was the one that translated the Bible first. Nobody translated it before Tyndale. And Tyndale didn't use church. He used, for ecclesia, he said congregation. Now, in and of itself, that is still not accurate. However, he refused to change that word and many other translated words into what the Roman kings and all these top Catholic influential people wanted him to do. And so he translated it, changed the word church to congregation, meaning the assembly of called out ones. But I want you to take a look at what happened to Tyndale because of what he was trying to do. Tyndale was betrayed, arrested and imprisoned in 1535 for 18 months, after which he was tried for heresy and treason, found guilty, strangled and burned at the stake. He was killed because his translations were regarded as heresy. Now, Tyndale continued to work on the Old Testament translation but was captured in Antwerp before it was completed. He was condemned for heresy. He was executed by strangulation, then burnt at the stake at Vilvoorde in 1536. Now, why did this happen? I taught you this in various sermons. The Catholic Church was filled with Freemasons. They are the ones that wanted to be the official carriers of Christendom. And for a period of time, because of the influence, they controlled Christianity and what Christians were fed. And so they selected from all the scriptures that were written, a collection of books, redacted, and they put the codex called the Bible together. They distributed it. And after they killed Tyndale, King Henry VIII, who was the one who got him killed, in Discovery tells us, ancient, free and accepted Masons of England. King Henry VIII, Lodge, 1757. This man was the one that wanted him killed. Why? Because he took a simple word like ecclesia and he didn't make it into that word church. Many other reasons also. But the one that came next was King James, who the first who wrote and translated, or he got translators to change the Greek into English. Now let's see what King James did. He changed that word, I will build my, not assembly, not congregation, not called out ones. He made a new word. That word was called church. That was a new word. And where did that word church come from? Let's look. In Old English, CIRCE, or you can say CIRCE, related to the Dutch Kerk and German Kirche, based on medieval Greek kurikon, from Greek kuriakon, Lord's house, from kurios, master or Lord. Now, this kurios was not a Christian kurios. It was a Greek god. That's where it came from. So the Greek god from which the church name, the New English word church came from, was a Greek goddess called Circe. Circe, also spelled Kirke, is a powerful sorceress and goddess in Greek mythology with an exceptional talent for mixing drugs or pharmakia or witchcraft. She was the daughter of the sun god Helios. Now in Roman times, Sunday was the first day of the week, an important day named after the sun god. So the sun god Helios, his daughter Circe, was the goddess that was worshipped on a Sunday. In fact, Monday they worship the moon god. Tuesday, so all the names of the week are the days on which the gods are worshipped. And Sunday is named after the sun god Helios and celebrated the daughter CIRCE. And so, the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, I'm going to use the word CIRCE every time we say church now. The Roman Catholic false god CIRCE or church wanted to gather on a Sunday to honor CIRCE. Now remember to what lengths they went to use that name, CIRCE. They actually killed Tyndale for it. This word is very important. This goddess is very important to the Romans. Now, among other things, she can alter minds, fire destructive magical energy blast, and create illusions. So, in short, they gathered, the Roman Catholic CIRCE gathered with a secret agenda to honor and worship the goddess that alters minds, manipulates people, projects magical energy, and casts spell over its members. You know, the spell is cast so thick that many who are from that sect, in fact they are the most number of Christians in the world, their priests have been known notoriously to abuse young boys, altar boys. The rumors are spread worldwide, and yet they remain part of the CIRCE. To this extent, CIRCE is able to alter and control the minds of those who are members of her organization. So the CIRCE is a dangerous organization. So just so that you know, in a CIRCE, you don't necessarily have called out ones, those ones that God spoke to. In a church, you'll have people who came for all different reasons to be part of a CIRCE. Maybe they were born in a Catholic home. Maybe they were born in another Christian home. So they gather in a CIRCE based on their inheritance, religious inheritance. They come because they saw magical powers. So the foundation on which their faith is built is not the foundation that Jesus was talking about. It's not because God told them. It's because they were born in a certain home. Because they saw a certain miracle take place. Because they were convinced by their girlfriend to start coming to church. This is why many who gather in a CIRCE, just so that you know now, when you see a CIRCE, let's say church now, you must know that inside that CIRCE are people who are not called out, not specifically called out. There are maybe some who are called out and decided to go to the CIRCE where their minds got warped. Because CIRCE can cast spells from the pulpit. Just so that you know, even the place where satanic worshippers come together is called the Satanic Church, the Satanic CIRCE. And this is why in a CIRCE you can get people who are hateful. Oh, you can get nasty people. You know, when you look into their eyes, you just know they hate you, but they'll come and hug. They'll smile and laugh, but behind your back they have a knife. They are evil people. They can be in a CIRCE. And some people say, how can you be part of a CIRCE and behave like that? Because in that CIRCE, there's no called out ones really. There might be a few, but many people come to the CIRCE for various, they want security, they want identity, they want to be somebody, and the pastor makes them somebody. You get people who betray one another. You get people who speak about one another. You get people who get angry and hold bitterness inside of them regarding each other. You get people, even when you have musicians, one will complain, the singer's mic, one singer is more louder than the other, and they will hold bitterness and a grudge, and you'll see it on their faces. They're not happy until you give them recognition. Then, so many in the CIRCE are not really called out. They are there for their own personal reasons. Maybe they're there to scout out unmarried people, women and men that they want to partner with. I don't know. But a cirque is not a place where you will find Jesus. You will find Jesus in the hearts of the called out ones. I hope you understand this. This cirque is where false prophets thrive. Where when they stand on the pulpit, they can blow magical powers, they can blow invisible frequencies, they can speak words that can manipulate your mind. They can adjust your way of thinking so that you are so corrupt in your head that you can't see clearly what the agenda is, where you're heading. And this is how many Christian people become blinded, although they are in a righteous pursuit for God. This is why from the pulpit you can blow people down. You never saw Jesus doing that, nor his apostles. You can wave your hand and people will start flying everywhere. And all sorts of funny things go on in the cirque because of the spell. This cirque can cast out spells because that gathering is in her name. Let's watch this few clips.
Check this out.
Now, did you know? I hope we can find a clip to show you. Right now, what the Edomites are doing to the people in that little strip in the Middle East called Gaza, killing children. There are strikes going on all over the world and protests because their governments are supporting these Edomites. In fact, right now, across the campuses of the United States, there are protesters that are gathering outside the campus grounds, peaceful, carrying flags and just saying, we are not going to support what you all are doing. The government is funding the Edomites. We don't want to allow the funding. We want them to stop killing the babies and all sorts of things. That's all they're doing is just standing peacefully. But the Edomites organized a rally and rallies all over, especially at UCLA campus. Those ones that are coming to attack them are made up of Christian people. Those that belong to the cirque, they're made up of Edomites. And they're coming with sticks and they want to hit and they want to bring down barricades and they're the violent ones. And the police are standing by and just watching. They want this to carry on. And the people at CNN, by the way, they're not mentioning that these people who are protesting peacefully are doing nothing wrong. But they're not mentioning the ones that are attacking that are doing something wrong. They're keeping quiet. They're not saying who they are. They're just saying protesters on both sides. But one side is violent. You can see Esau, the violent Esau. Esau was a very violent man. His mother hated him. His children, those are. It's in their genes. They are violent, ruthless people. They're coming with sticks and they're coming to attack. If we can play you a video, we'll show it to you. But what catches my attention is that many belong to the cirque. And the cirque is the reason why the government is okay with supporting the Edomites. Because the cirque has been mesmerized. They think these people are God's chosen people. They don't know. They can't see through. Why? Because they are mesmerized by cirque. Even the TV channels, the Christian networks, the pastors in your local area, when you see a comment going on your Facebook, social media, whatever, somebody supports not having this killing of innocent children, you'll get the cirque people coming out. They are the children of God. We must support them. Hey, they don't believe in Jesus. They killed Jesus. Besides, these were the Edomites. These are not the ones that are children of Jacob. You better know that. But the cirque cannot see it at all. Why? Because cirque mesmerizes. Just so that you know. Now, Galatians chapter 1. But even if we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel to you than what we have preached to you, let him be accursed. You see these people that go to the cirque and they get falling down, they're speaking in different, funny languages that only they know what they're saying. Nobody else can know. They mumble and jumble and talking that what they call tongue. They cannot see this never happened. Jesus never did that. If anybody was filled with the Holy Spirit, it was Jesus. And the tongues I was speaking about on the day of Pentecost, that was languages, speaking to Indians in Hindi and Telugu and Tamil, speaking to the Hellenistic Jews in Greek, whatever language, in Latin to the Romans. And so that was the tongues. And then later on, when Paul was talking, he was talking about when God is speaking. If somebody is standing in a church and he speaks Zulu, a person that's standing next to him must be able to interpret what he's saying. So in other words, they took this gospel and made it a new gospel. And Jesus said, if they come through Paul, he said, they come with any other gospel, they're going to be accursed. But you see, the people who even are listening to me now, but they're part of the cirque, they won't see it at all. But some of you, you know what I'm talking about. When you were in there before, you never saw it. But now that you were called out, something inside of you told you to start tuning into me, told you to start watching. Something inside of you did that. Nobody forced you. And when you started watching, your eyes were opened. And now when you look back, you say, how could I ever be part of that? Because when you're inside, you're mesmerized. What does cirque do? Mesmerize. So I just want you to know how fortunate you are, how blessed by God you are, that He looked at your heart and He says, no, you are going to be called out. There's something about you He loves, that your heart is clean. It's not a dirty heart. It's not a filthy. God saw something in you. Oh man, compliment yourself for being a good person, a person with a decency inside, that God chose you to speak inside. On that foundation you were called out, on that rock. So the hand-picked people who are called out now, some of them are still not moving. Although they're hearing and listening, there's an inner voice telling them, but they're still stuck in the circle. Now, how does God choose the bride for Christ? Now, we still go back to the original Jewish wedding I was speaking to you about, how the father of the groom chooses the son's next bride. I'm going to read to you from the Hebrew understanding of a marriage. He theorizes that kala is the bride, comes from the Hebrew root word klh, which means complete. So the bride has to be complete. The bride daughter-in-law is the one who completes the family of her father-in-law. The family unit of father, mother, son is not complete under the arrival of this new member. See the commentary of REV in Genesis 11 and 19. One can also suggest that the bride is what the husband needs to be complete. The other word is perfect or perfect. So she has to be made perfect for him. And his perfection is complete when the perfect bride comes to meet the perfect son. So how is perfection achieved by the bride? After they called out, after God gives them a calling out from inside of them, they strive to the mark of perfection. But James 1:4 tells us, but let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Oh my goodness. I taught you this a little while back, not very long ago, that you can be perfect in God's eyes. In what way? Perfect means when you feel in your heart you lack nothing. When you have peace, even when nothing is going for you. Through the midst of the storm, if there's peace in your heart, if you can have peace when you're lacking physical things, when you're being attacked verbally by people, When you can take full control of your emotions inside and have peace, it's a divine gift given by God. I shared this with you. The Holy Spirit comes and gives you that gift. When you're able to have that gift of perfect peace in the time of storm, that's the mark of perfection. Then you are a bride that's ready to be married to the groom and to make that groom complete. Now, how do you prepare for the groom to come and fetch you? You have to walk towards the mark of perfection. But you've got to keep gaining knowledge so that your eyes are opened, so that you can see. And if the light goes out and you don't have enough oil to keep the lamp burning, then the door is going to be shut and you're going to miss out, even though you were called out. Now there were 10 called out virgins waiting for the coming king. Let's read that for a moment. At midnight the cry rang out, "Here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then all the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish one said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out." "No," they replied. "There may not be enough for both of us and you. Instead, you go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves." But while they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. The oil here refers to knowledge. Knowledge opens your eyes. And so the called out ones, once you're called out, you need to start getting oil. You need to start getting oil. And as that oil that's what I've been giving you, oil. And so I keep you in readiness. I keep you awake. When the lamp is burning, you are awake. Now there are some who are called out, but they're still sitting in the kerk of darkness, the cirque of darkness. And they refuse to come out, they refuse to learn, they refuse to gain knowledge, they're just happy to go around. And they are called out. God called them. So you can't blame God that yet He called you, you were not chosen. There's a difference between called out, and then from the called out ones, you're going to get chosen ones. So when they asked Jesus, "Tell us, Lord, when will you come?" And then that's when Jesus said, only the Father knows when I'm going to come. But these are the signs that are going to happen before I come. There will be storms, there will be earthquakes, there will be floods, there will be famine, there will be diseases that go all around the world. When you see these signs, you need to know I'm not far away. So you can't come out of CIRCE when it's too late. That's why you have to keep the oil. So learn about these things that are going on so your eyes are opened. Now according to Meta, these are the powers of CIRCE. I'm not going to read to you most of them because we read them. The last point is, or the last two, divination. She has the ability to see into the future and predict events. And number 6, she has control over nature. She has power over the elements, including the wind, waves, and weather. Wow. The beast that we spoke of is now turning to CIRCE so that they can have her powers, her knowledge to control nature. She expects the groom, because she has divination powers, she expects the groom to come, so she is activating his coming, and she is using the agents that serve under her CIRCE, the powers to create this that the world is seeing, controlling nature. And if those things are going to happen, CIRCE is in the middle of it. She can concoct potions. She can do pharmakia. And right now as we speak, there's a TikTok video, I think, going out of a reliable person, telling us that we have to expect something to happen soon regarding a disease that's going to be worse than what we went through in the last few years. And who is manufacturing this new disease? He mentions a man by the name of Kawaoka, Dr. Yoshihiro Kawaoka. And this doctor is actually doing, he's a scientist rather, he's doing GOF, read that on your screen, studies of flu bugs. That's what he's doing. Now, that GOF means they take a harmless bug and they make it potent, deadly. And at the moment, it's being tested on mammals and other animals to see its potency. And according to the person that speaks on the TikTok, I cannot play you that for obvious reasons, but according to that person, they've already done the testing and it is more deadly than what we went through. Now, the person who is doing that Dr. Kawaoka, is actually the scientist that's doing this. At the back of your mind, remember CIRCE is doing mixing potions. He's doing this at Madison University. And the grant that was given to him was by none other than Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The University of Wisconsin-Madison has received a 5-year, $9.5 million grant from Bill and Melinda Gates to identify mutations of bugs and would serve as early warning of potential widespread flu bugs. So, who's involved in this skill? CIRCE. Now, in 2001, this is like 23 years ago now, NASA wrote this document about their plan to be carried out or finished by 2025, which is next year. This document can be gotten by anybody because it's on their website. The heading says, NASA, Future Strategic Issues, Future Warfare. Now read the next line, where that came from. Circa 2025. That comes from that same goddess, CIRCE. In English, they want to use the word church. That means in this English version, on or about 2025. Now, I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just going to highlight a few plans that they have. But this was done in 2001, remember. Aflatoxin, natural parts per billion carcinogen. Airborne varieties of those two very dangerous bugs. Binary agents distributed via imported products like vitamins, clothing, and food. So the poison will be spread through vitamins. You saw that potions that this CIRCE can mix. This knowledge has been given to the Edomites to carry it out. The plan has been foreseen and given to them in 2001 that by 2025 this must be done. So when you see imported vitamins, you have to be very careful. When you see food, it is already genetically engineered. It's changed its form. Hence I finished telling you about them replacing cows' genes with abnormalities, and they destroying and killing animals, farms, closing them down, making new crops from genetic seeds. Genomically individual and societal targeted pathogens. So they need to make specific poison that can target individual people and can also target societies. That's what that line means. If we can highlight it so you can see it. Long-term fingerprintless campaign as opposed to shock and awe. In other words, you won't see it coming. There will be no fingerprints to say certain person has done something. It will be done in clandestine way. But I'm opening your eyes, just so you know. In the next part, typical scenario, takedown of US by 10 people, less than $10 million. That's the budget that they wanted to use to start this process. I want to read the last point there. Water supply contamination via intercontinental UAVs. Now, the fact that they want to pollute the waters is something playing out in our local areas right around the world. It's in UK, it's in America, it's in South Africa, it's in Durban, cutting the water and then poisoning the water. Now you can't drink those waters because they're polluted and they're not cleaned properly, and they put sewer in the drinking water. And so all sorts of things are going, but this is not just incompetence. Now some people might say, oh, this people are incompetent. It's not, it's planned. 23 years ago, this was the plan. That's why from the seas, which is already contaminated by various things, and they want to turn seawater into drinking, that's not possible. And even the fish that are there are contaminated because of the contaminants that are there. So these things are all part of CIRCE's divination that he gave to these people what to do and how to accomplish it. Now let's leave the NASA. Let's look at the US Air Force. They drew up a document that predicted how they could manipulate the weather by 2025. This document was drawn up on the 29th of December, 1997. This was even more longer than the other one. And the title of the document, it's on their website. It's called Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. A research paper presented to the Air Force 2025. In 2025, US Aerospace Forces can own the weather by capitalizing on the emerging technologies and focusing development of those technologies to war-fighting applications. Such a capability offers the warfighter tools to shape the battle space in ways never before possible. It provides opportunities to impact operations across the full spectrum of conflict and is pertinent to all possible futures. The purpose of this paper is to outline a strategy for the use of a future weather modification system to achieve military objectives rather than to provide a detailed technical roadmap. From enhancing friendly operations or disrupting those of the enemy via small-scale tailoring of natural weather patterns to complete domination of global communications and counter-space control, weather modification offers the war fighter a wide range of possible options to defeat or coerce an adversary. A next heading tells us degrade enemy forces, decrease comfort level, morale storm enhancement, deny operations, precipitation denial, deny fresh water, induce drought. Wow. You know, I've been singing this song. I didn't see this document until recently. But I've been singing this song about the weather manipulation. You know, this is Durban that I am in. Never in our history had we had temperatures in the 30s on the 1st of May, or even close to that. And it's like winter is becoming summer. And you'll see right now in the world, enemy regimes experience severe floods, earthquakes, Iran, Turkey, Russia, China, even Africa. And one of the reasons is to get the crops also. This is how they threaten. We see in Saudi Arabia what happened. That was something they had to do because of the faulty system they used to create the rain. Now, all these things that are playing out in the world. If drought happens, food is compromised. If floods happen, food is compromised. And so it's about humans' consumption. And countries are threatened that don't fall in line with these sorts of things. And we see Kenya right now in Africa, going through a horrendous storm, water damage. People died. But more importantly, the target was the farms. And so right around the world we see abnormalities. Where was it all concocted? In the US Air Force. So they want to decrease our comfort level. That's according to the line I just read to you. Our morale. You know, when people in the local communities, the water gets shut off, it's more than just incompetence. I just want you to know, and your eyes need to be open, that CIRCE is at the heart, this demonic force is at the heart of giving these people the knowledge they need to do what they're doing. Continuing, in the United States, weather modification will likely become, this is predicting now. This happened in 1997, they're predicting. Weather modification will likely become a part of national security policy. That means secret. National security, they take that label and they put it there. We heard William Cooper say it last week. They take whatever their plan is and they put it under national security so that nobody knows what's happening. And it goes in line with what they said just before this in 2001, where we read fingerprintless. So you can't identify where it's coming from. National security policy with both domestic and international applications. Our government will pursue such a policy depending on its interests at various levels. These levels could include unilateral actions, participation in a security framework such as NATO, membership in an international organization such as the United Nations, or participation in a coalition. Assuming that in 2025, our national security strategy includes weather modification, its use in our military strategy will naturally follow. Besides the significant benefits and operational capabilities would provide, another motivation to pursue weather modification is to deter and counter potential adversaries. Now, if your soul is listening, by these two agencies writing stuff that they want to submit to the United Nations, something is going to happen in 2025 as we approach. So I want you to be very aware. I want you to, as you gain this knowledge, you see you put more oil in your lamp and you light it and your lamp stays burning, so that you do not get involved in mundane, trivial things of this world, that you take your eyes off the plan. And when you know CIRCE is behind it, you become more alert. I'm going to play you now a clip of John F. Kennedy in 1961. He made a speech at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York, 27th of April. I want you to listen to this speech.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. It conducts the Cold War, in short, with a wartime discipline no democracy would ever hope or wish to match.
He was vowing to publicly reveal the existence of a cabal. And not long after that, he was assassinated. Now, David Rockefeller, honored at the United Nations ambassador, this is the beast now, ambassador dinner in 94, says the population growth is too high. No, it's too high now. And this is 1994, it was too high. Baby deaths are too low, he says, and people are living longer, and something must be done. And I want you to listen to his words.
Let me illustrate. Improved public health has caused the world's infant mortality rate to decline by 60% over the last 40 years. In the same period, the world's average life expectancy has increased from 46 years in 1950s to 63 years today. This is a development which, as individuals, we can only applaud. However, the result of these positive measures is a world population that has risen during the same short period of time geometrically to almost 6 billion people and could easily exceed 8 billion by the year 2020. The negative impact of population growth on all of our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident. In particular, the rapid growing exploitation of the world's supply of energy and water is a matter of deep concern, and the toxic byproducts of widespread industrialization have increased atmospheric pollution to dangerous levels. Unless nations will agree to work together to tackle these cross-border challenges posed by population growth, overconsumption of resources, and environmental degradation, the prospects for a decent life on our planet will be threatened. The recent UN meeting in Cairo is appropriately focused on one of these key issues, population growth. But the controversies which have erupted at the conference illustrate the problem of coming to grips with issues that are deeply divisive and which have a profound moral dimension. The United Nations can and should play an essential role in helping the world find a satisfactory way of stabilizing world population.
So in effect, he was saying to the UN, he was an ambassador to the UN, this was an ambassadorial dinner and he was a guest of honor. He's saying to them, listen, the beast, there's too many people and you need to do something about it. The babies are dying too slow now. Normally they have high death rates when they're born. Now they're starting to live, so we have to do something. Pharmacare has to do something about this. This was the man who, through that speech, he didn't use the exact words, but paraphrased, this is what he said. We are on the verge of a global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis and nations will accept the new world order. So CIRCE is a dangerous beast. CIRCE is behind the plans of the beast, just so that you know. The same CIRCE is giving knowledge to the CIRCE Freemasons, the Church of Freemasons, to kill. Now, what is the main source of Christian knowledge about God or about anything? What is the main source? For a normal person going to CIRCE, what's the main source? The Bible. Right, let's look at that. Where is the Bible taught mainly? In the CIRCE. Who chose the scriptures that must be chosen to go into that Bible? The Roman Catholic CIRCE. So they chose those scriptures that must be chosen to be in the Bible, and those that may not must be remaining out of the Bible. And what did they say to the CIRCE? They said to all their followers and their pastors and their leaders up till today, only talk about those scriptures that are written in the Bible. Nothing else. You don't look at any other scriptures. Because we decided, we are the Roman Catholic CIRCE, the Freemason CIRCE, that are telling you that this is the Word of God. Wow. So, who made that word an archenu logos? Who made that word logos into word? The Freemason CIRCE. They took that word in the beginning was Logos. In other words, wisdom. Wisdom became flesh. They made that word into word. And they were the ones that said that the Bible is the word. The Freemason Catholic Cirque decided that all the cirques that follow after that, up till today, every interdenominational cirque, any organizational cirque, they must use that word and make it equal to Jesus. The Bible must be equal to Jesus. That's what they said. And the cirque is so blinded. Because why they blinded? Because who's in charge of the cirque? The mesmerizing one. The one that can spread mesmer around everywhere. That can confuse and keep people one-track minds. The ones that can dominate the mind. And so you'll find Christians in a cirque studying not God, not theology to learn about God, the logic of God, that's what theology is. No, but they study the Bible. And that's why they named it Bible class, Bible school, Bible college, Bible university. But where did that come from? It come from, I want you to recognize it now. Now, only those people who God speak, the foundation of His called out ones, when He speaks on the inside, then you'll figure it out. But if you're not one of those, don't worry about it, it's not for you. The cirque people, they are the ones that will study just those pages that the Roman Catholic Cirque decided that's what you must look at only. And they are the ones that changed the Greek and the Hebrew to English. So that's why they even killed Tyndale, because this Bible was going to be used by the cirque everywhere, and so they couldn't afford at that time to make the mistake. So they corrected it. And they spread it. And so now, the only source of information that the cirque has is the Bible. They are told not to look anywhere else. So that's why there's no theology in the Bible school. There is only Bible studies. And this is so important. There's a spell that is cast over the members of a cirque. That's why you cannot belong to a cirque. You have to belong to an assembly of called out ones. In an assembly of called out ones, there's no nastiness, there's no jealousy, there's no anger, there's no evil, there's no hatred in the heart of a person. Now that oil has been burning in your lamp and you're filling more oil, I want you to get ready for a new day in your life where you can see clearly. Welcome to the kingdom of God. I want to pray with you. And then remember, at 10 o'clock this morning, we will be broadcasting the online baptism. I want to thank you for joining me, and I pray that many who are listening to me, the Lord speak to you in your heart. You give yourself completely to Him and obey every voice from within. For this is the foundation that He created His called out ones. God bless you.